two things, God and the Cats.
We're at the halfway point of the season. Sam Houston taking on the Jacksonville State Gamecocks in Houston, Texas, 7 p.m. in H-Town Shell Energy Stadium. We're here to preview it here on Sam Houston Sports Talk. Colin Neal, Luke Scott rejoining me once again. I wasn't able, unfortunately for him, he has a real job, and unlike me, so he's doing much better in that facet. So he wasn't able to join me on Monday to recap New Mexico State. But Luke, I hate to put this on you right now because I know you're very disappointed with what went down, especially with how confident you were going into the game. But before we get to that, please be sure you subscribe today. Follow us on all of our social media outlets, X, Facebook, Instagram. All the places are in the description below, and also a link to our Spotify for an audio-only form of the podcast. So whatever you do to support Sam Houston Sports Talk, we greatly appreciate it. But Luke, I just want to go ahead and just get your thoughts real quick on what went down in Breaking Bad country.
Yeah, obviously disappointed, Colin, in kind of the end result. I think the final score was a little inflated at the end. I think that game was a little bit closer than 37-10, but just disappointed with kind of how the offense and the defense. I mean, obviously the defense going to get a stop there at the end of the game, but first game you see some emphasis and some adjustments made from previous games. And it looks to be like probably our best first drive, our best drive of the season, kind of starting to form, and you didn't get anything out of it. And after that, you were just kind of playing from behind. I thought the defense held up pretty well there in the first half, only giving up in the second quarter. But, just didn't have it. I didn't think we ran the ball very well at all. Calling Hunter Watson kind of just had to do it by himself, and we're kind of thinking now this season, if we're going to win anything, it's going to have to be through Hunter, and he's just not enough. And credit what's it called? New Mexico State for winning the game, but just disappointed in how he played.
Yeah, and honestly, I have no press conference clips. I mean, there were some interesting things but there wasn't really anything that insightful, to say the least. I mean, Jack State's kind of in a interesting situation, kind of the same situation. I mean, I thought there was kind of a quarterback thing going on over there, but there really isn't, which by the way, I was able to bring on Thomas Ashworth of AL.com to talk a little bit about the Gamecocks. That interview comes up in just a few minutes, but it's I mean, I guess the thing is, we'd be like, oh, it's so great to be back. It's so great for them. They're back home. They can relax for the next two games. Really, well, relax like in meaning like, oh, like they don't have to go anywhere, but. Well, they're going somewhere. They're going an hour and a half south of I-45, an hour and 45, really, if you take into account the traffic most of the time. But Luke, it's just tough. And then this Jack State team, under the first year as Jack State head coach and Charles Kelly, they got basically almost a whole new roster, same thing as Sam Houston, but they're off to a better start. Obviously, they're 2-3. Remember, look, I think you and I were talking about this, or I don't know if it's our friend of the program, Colton Foster, but they played UCF very close at the Bounce House after a 3-hour delay, 17-10 loss, and then they began Conference USA play early as well against Liberty, and then they beat Liberty. Now that win looks really good right now, or not right now, but looked really good at the time, but it looks like, Liberty's just not good. Man, Liberty just does not look good. The year we avoid Liberty, I wish we would have played them because they did the quarterback play over there is just not good right now. But then they beat Georgia Southern. That was as well as a great win. But they lost to Georgia Southern. Excuse me. They beat Murray State, their FCS opponent. and then they're coming off of not the best of losses against Southern Miss last year. This was a team that Sam Houston went toe to toe with in Jacksonville, Alabama, and especially where they had like a guy like Tyler Huff, and that's of course they have Rich Rod, but Rich Rod of course is back up in West Virginia. Just it's another interesting matchup this year, but like I said in the preview pod, or not in the preview pod, the recap pod this past one, it's hard for me to pick Sam Houston in any game right now because they haven't proven me otherwise. Especially after what went down in Las Cruces.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to pick the Bearcats. This is a kind of a game that it's two dogs that are both super hungry, right? So you're Jack State, you're still undefeated in conference, and if you can build a little momentum and win a couple games in a row, you think Middle Tennessee is a winnable game for Jack State? I think so. UTEP, I think so is, and as well as Kennesaw State. So, um, this is 4 or 5 games here for Jack State that I think is pretty winnable for this team. And then you have Sam Houston, right, on our side of the fence that we're still just trying to get our first of the season. So, um, I think if this game is played at Bowers, I think if this season's at Bowers, I think, maybe it's a little bit different, but um, like I get what you're saying. I think it is going to be kind of tough to roll with the Bearcats here in this spot. Um,
Yeah.
just haven't played well. I just don't think we've played a good game of football yet, like a complete game. I think we've played quarters, maybe. I don't know if we've played a great half. Maybe we've played a good half, maybe the first game, but outside the first game or the second game, um, I don't know. I thought it'd be a little bit better than what we've shown, and uh, obviously sometimes the record doesn't the same thing. But I think in this case it kind of does.
Yeah, it's by the way, I don't know if you saw this. There was a small fire that happened at the Bowers Stadium construction, but thankfully, as again, our good old friend of the program, Colton Foster, told me that no one was hurt. So and there's no delays as of now reported. So thankfully, that's going along quite well. I just can't. I hate to be that kind of person that looks towards the next year, Luke. But man, I'm gonna be so happy when I see the
We
Bearcats.
might be looking towards next year.
Yeah, I am just happy though to know that the Bearcats will be back at Bowers next year. Uh, hopefully nothing crazy happens or whatever. But yeah. But anyway, we're focused on the now, and now is preparing to take on the Jacksonville State Gamecocks to hopefully get the first one of the season. The Gamecocks are coming off of a bye week, same thing as the Bearcats did last week. They're also traveling, albeit it's not that far of a. I don't think it's that far of a travel as from Huntsville to Las Cruces, New Mexico. But either way, someone could check me on that. I'm not the best in geography, even though I love geography, but it feels like if you really, I said this last week, but if you really want to try to at least get something going, you have to win right now. Otherwise, once you drop to 0-6, the possibility of a bowl is literally less than 1%.
Yeah. I just thought this past one was kind of a swing game of maybe making a push to bowl eligibility and not, and I just don't think it's going to happen, Colin.
Yeah.
Especially with kind of the crowd that showed up the past couple or the last time we were at Shell Energy, Colin. I mean,
Oh
that's going to
man.
have to be better because it's hard to play in front of an empty crowd and empty stands, and when you're 5 and you're playing in front of nobody, that's tough.
Yeah, it is homecoming, so hopefully maybe it'll be a bit of a better crowd. But man, it's gonna be tough. It's weird having a homecoming. It's a weird to have homecoming somewhere else.
Away
That's
game.
not. Yeah, literally. You know, I went back and I watched the press conference like after the UNLV game, and I remember Longo saying something along the lines of that's not the basically saying that's not what we were expecting when it came to the crowd. And I honestly feel bad for him. I wonder sometimes I wonder if he was told something different about how the crowd could be. But honestly, if you were paying attention, I'm not going to say specific stuff. Y'all could probably figure it out on your own. But it kind of felt like that it was going that direction, at least for that night, that it wasn't going to be a good crowd. It was the opening of high school football that for a lot of Texas schools that Friday night. There was also an Astros game going on whatsoever. But it's also just the fact it's going to be hard for students to go to it's going to be hard to justify to students to drive an hour and a half down to Houston, especially now for this week in the middle of the week, and it's going to be the same thing for next week. So you're going to really have to attack the alumni base, and we've seen it on social media, Luke. It still seems to be pretty weak sometimes when it comes to the ties.
Yeah, yeah, and I know, um, I know it's not necessarily the easiest to get up to Huntsville, but like this is such a closer venue for the Houston like alumni base being there. You'd really hope that you get a good amount of people there at Shell Energy. If I wish it was a little bit closer to me, but it's not. But it's hard to expect the students to go out there on a weekday, like you said, because they got class tomorrow, or they would have class the next day, right? I know it's Friday, and Fridays in college can be kind of hit or miss at school. Although we always went to class on Fridays, of course. Colin and I both have degrees,
Academic weapons, baby.
That's right.
It's right here. It's right here. I got proof right here.
I do. I also do feel pretty bad for Longo. Yeah. I don't know if he was misled. I don't know if it just wasn't communicated. Who knows? What's the disappointment of the crowd there last time out? And I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be any different.
I'm gonna ask you this question, Luke. It's kind of two questions. One, do you still give despite well, actually no, let me phrase this. Me personally, I think the criticism on Longo for this season is personally for me, I think it's mostly unfair. Now we can get down to the play calling, we can get down to the game designs and all that. But to be honest with Luke, I personally, and I think a lot of people really underestimated how difficult this season was going to be. What do you think?
Well, it's easy to point a finger at the head coach when you're 0-5, 0-2 in conference. It's also easy to point the finger at the schedule. You don't have home games. You lost half your team. You lost pretty much your entire coaching staff. I think it's not necessarily one person's fault. I think there was definitely a strong push in the football alumni base to hire Coach Longo. Now, I don't know if that might have took a few more maybe qualified candidates or just searched down a little bit. I don't know. It is hard for me to criticize Longo just because of pretty much every single factor that can go into a season, anything that can change, right, has gone against him in the preseason and in the season already, right? So I think as a fan base, as an alumni base, as college football fans, I know we can be very short-tempered and very reactionary. I think this is one of those cases that we need to just kind of chill out for a second and give them a year. If we're 0-5 at the same time next year, right, and it looked just as bad, okay, the pitchforks can come out and we can start burning down the house. But as of right now, I think we just need to relax because, like I said, anything that could go wrong in a did. Right? Like you're losing your team, you're losing coaches, you don't have a home stadium. The schedule's about as tough as it can be. I think we just need to give him a break.
Well, maybe like I said Thursday, maybe he can win back some folks. It depends on how it. Honestly, I think the defense is about as good as it can get. Like, Luke, it was a close game going to the fourth quarter, and then out of freaking nowhere,
It was.
in and out of freaking nowhere, the Aggies scored 24 points, and 14 of those points realistically are not on the defense, in my opinion, because especially on the botch kickoff, especially on the backwards pass that Hunter Watson had, the Bearcats should have gotten points right there, no matter if it was going to be a first down or a touchdown or a field goal right there. It should have been points. And then that puts the defense in a bad spot. I mean, the defense feels like at a lot of times has been put in bad spots because the offense just either messed up or couldn't manufacture anything. And especially, honestly, like I kind of knew that the game was over after the kickoff was botched. It was just like, okay, it's over. Like the the game is just not falling our side tonight, and we just have to phone it in and hopefully get out healthy, head back home, prepare for a battle against the Gamecocks that could be trying to shake off some rust. And yeah, it's this. I hope for at least, if we're not going to win, Luke, I hope for at least a good game. I want to see more progress from the offense.
I agree. We saw a little bit more Quavez, which I thought was good. Um, there was also a ton of injuries in this game, Colin. I mean, the Bearcat injury report was filled to the brim, up and down. So, not that those guys like ever did anything, early, but like still, it does kind of hurt.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it wasn't a great pick by Watson either. That he threw.
Watson got away with a lot that night. He made some very interesting
Yeah,
decisions.
he did. Yeah, he did.
He could have had maybe
And like the fact that he was probably our best offensive player,
now
and
it is
it just wasn't great.
now this is where PFF gets very interesting and why I don't always take those at face value, because they actually gave him a decent grade. They gave him a bit of an above average. They gave him above average grade around 68.5 or 0.7, whatever, and that's his best overall grade this year. But he made some weird decisions. So that's why whenever I reference PFF grades, guys, take those with a grain of salt. Go watch the film. PFF grades can tell you one thing, but the film can tell you another. So take that with a grain of salt, however you want. But apparently, PFF thinks that Watson didn't necessarily have that bad of a game. He had 222 yards of passing. I think the issue, though, Luke, is just especially with the offense. They go on good drives and they just stall. They just stop, and it's like, well, all
Can't
that's
get
for nothing.
points.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully, against the Jack State team, Ashworth told me about how they have a tendency to give up big plays and they can be a little undisciplined with the penalties. This could be at least a good opportunity if the Bearcats can get off to a hot start against a Jack State team that's trying to shake off the rust off of a bye week, especially coming off of a bad loss against Southern Miss and Hattiesburg. You know, you could potentially, line yourself up for the victory. I think it's going to be very key for this offense to get off to a hot start. Especially the team overall, really, I think just needs to get off to a hot start if they want to do something.
Colin, when's the last time this team held a lead? The first week?
Last time this team held a lead, Hawaii.
Was it Hawaii? Yeah, I guess you're right. Hawaii, yeah. No, we didn't. Were we ever in the lead against Hawaii?
I'm pretty sure we were, but get your point across, and I'll look.
Because I was thinking the lead was against Western Kentucky in the first game. Um, that's what I was kind of thinking, but maybe not. Um, that's just kind of like I've been thinking about is that this team just has sustained like a sustained lead, like a lead of 10 points or more. Um, and I just don't know if the team would play different in that type of scenario.
You're right.
Obviously, they kind of went back and forth. Which I was right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. I thought
yeah.
for some reason we had a lead against Hawaii, but you're right.
That's the frustrating part, Colin. It's that like in the first part of the season, you got a couple scores, and I know it didn't end up winning it too, but still, it looked like something was there, and we just haven't. We've seen nothing really. It's felt like since that first week, uh, or I guess of week 0, right, of the season. Um, Also, the tough stat that we went 5 straight scoring a point. That was a pretty tough look.
Yeah. It, one thing the defense I think can really the one thing that I think all the defense really has to do in this game is to also take away the running game because Luke, they have a really good running back who already has 600 yards of rushing in Cam Cook, who was at TCU previously, 4-star guy out of high school. Ashworth talked a little bit more about him in our interview, which is coming up shortly. But Luke, he 100. That's all. By the way, 5 games without many yards. That's 122.8 yards per carry. That he is their best offensive player on the team. They're gonna have to find a way to stop them. Otherwise, it's gonna get very ugly because this defense also does tend to give up explosive plays. And if that run game is going, it's gonna expose the pass defense like teams have been doing all year.
I agree. Cam Cook, kind of right down the road from where I'm from in Round Rock, went to Stony Point, so very close. Uh, I went to elementary school in the same school district, so neat fact. But no, you're right, and I think the way that Sam Houston kind of battled the run, calling in the last game against Mexico State, like I said, like wasn't off. I wouldn't say it was great, but I wouldn't say it wasn't bad at all. There was what 1 or 2 kind of big runs there from Mexico State, and I think if you can keep Cam Cook kind of contained a little bit, give yourself a shot, Colin. But for me, it's just about. I think you're right with this defense. Like we'll take what we can get, but this offense just has to give this defense some support.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
absolutely.
it's you talk about like pitching, right? In baseball, you could have a standout picture or a pitcher, and he's wheeling and dealing, but if you don't give him any run support, you're not going to win, right? I think this is kind of one of those times where the offense has to look at itself and say, "Hey, we got to give our defense some time, at least to rest, right?" And when we get to the red zone, or when we get to field goal range, whatever that is, um, you got to put up points. And I think we haven't been great on, still been off on third down throughout this year. Continued it the other night. Christian Pavon did make a nice field goal though, Colin. So
He's
we
making us
are
eat.
excited about
He's making
that.
us eat crow, Luke. I'm telling you, he's making us eat crow.
He's made me eat crow. Yeah, yeah. I'll take it.
On his birthday, no less. On his birthday.
Oh, and what a punt there by Curtis Durant.
Oh,
Colin,
dude.
we got a punter.
Hey, did I not tell you that I like me some Curtis Duran? I told you before the season. I like some Curtis Duran.
He's he's been busy this year. So
hopefully for the rest of the year he's not too busy. But hey, I'm telling you, man, that we have a good punter on our hands for a freshman to go in there.
that 72-yard punt was legit.
Yeah. And also great job by the coverage team as well to get down there and down it right there inside the 5. It was a really good job. But that was all Duran, baby. That was just a damn good punt. My hats off to you, Australian sir. From yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. But let's go ahead and take a break, and then we come back, I sat down with Thomas Ashworth of AL.com to learn a little bit more about Jacksonville State. I know we kind of talked a little bit more about New Mexico State more than anything, but there's a lot of tie-in from what happened last week into this week because, you just hope that maybe, just maybe, now that they're now finally playing 2 games in a row, that maybe they can finally find some consistency and get things going because it's tough playing at Hawaii, coming back, having that bye week, playing Texas, having that bye week, and then going to Las Cruces, New Mexico to play New Mexico State. But who knows? Maybe things will get better. Maybe things will just stay the same. We'll see. But here is my interview with Thomas Ashworth from AL.com on Sam Houston's next opponent in the Jack State Gamecocks. Keep it tuned right here on Sam Houston Sports Talk. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sam Houston Sports Talk. Let's continue previewing Thursday night's matchup between the Sam Houston Bearcats and the Jack State Gamecocks. Gamecocks coming all the way from Jacksonville, Alabama. Not the Jacksonville, Florida. I know some people probably get confused. It's Jacksonville, Alabama. But here to tell us a little bit more about the Gamecocks, it's going to be sports reporter from AL.com, Thomas Ashworth. Thomas, thank you for hopping on. These two teams kind of underwent similar situations in the offseason. New head coach, almost brain-stinking new coaching staffs, and a lot of new faces. Just, this is kind of an interesting matchup that we have on our hands on Thursday night in Shell Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, like you said, first-year coaches, I think there's over 50 new faces on both teams. At least that's my understanding. Both coaches came in and had a lot of work to do. For Jack State, it was Charles Kelly had one quarterback and one cornerback on the roster that were on scholarship. So he had a lot of work cut out for him at those positions. But I think that, both teams are certainly facing their challenges, but we'll see what this one looks like. Certainly a lot of new faces, both on the coaching staffs and on the roster. So it should be a good one.
We got a lot to get to, especially when it comes to this Gamecocks squad. But let's start off with how the season is going. 2-3, 1-0 in conference play. That was a week 1 victory against the Liberty Flames in Jacksonville, 34-24. That opening game of the season in week 0 for y'all, for them. I mean, 10-17, a loss to UCF on a game that had a 3-hour delay or something like that, some crazy long delay. And then Georgia lost to Georgia Southern Statesboro 34-21. Beat your FCS team Murray State on homecoming, and then just this and y'all are coming off of a bye, but the previous week before this last week went to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, then lost to Southern Miss 25-42. They probably could have won that game considering how good and close they played these other teams. But just seems like a kind of a just a dip into the journey, just a little road bump. Every team has those. But how is this team faring under Charles Kelly's first year so far?
I think in each game it's shown something different with this team. I think that I think that game provided, honestly, right at the beginning of the season, I think provided more encouragement than discouragement. There was a lot to like in that game for Jack State. Obviously, the 3-hour rain delay isn't ideal for either team, but I think that so far this team has shown discipline. I think that in the first 3 games they really showed that there weren't that many penalties, things like that you kind of expect when you have a bunch of new players on the field. Just kind of the between the lines stuff. But I think this team is they've done good in moments at every position. Like in the UCF game, the defensive line was excellent. Cam Cook has been excellent in certain spots. Gavin Wimsatt at quarterback has been, very good in different spots. But I think each game has kind of showcased something different for Jack State. Obviously, the last one was the roughest for Jacksonville State. Just really couldn't get anything going until the second half when a quarterback change came in and Kanan Creel, and he was able to get some stuff going. But again, it's the second half of a lopsided game that was kind of already out of their hands at that point. At least it felt like it. So a little bit different situation, but I think each game's kind of shown something different for Jack State. So who knows what it'll be against Sam Houston.
Talk a little bit more about head coach Charles Kelly. He comes in, just kind of what can you tell us about him, what he's like, where he's been, and anything else we should know about the new head honcho in Jacksonville State?
Yeah, I think that what's interesting about Coach Kelly, you look at, the last few head coaches, Bill Clark was at Jack State for a season. I'll start with him, but he's a guy who is a Jack State grad. He knows the state very well. John Gross is a guy who really was the coach all the way through up until that transition from 20 when he came in 2014. He was right before the transition from FCS to FBS started. But he's a guy that's very familiar with the state, obviously as well. Deep ties with Jacksonville State, but Rich Rod's a national guy. I mean, he's obviously the forefront of a lot of offensive schemes. Just really known for his heavy offenses in the run game, and known for his style of offenses. And then he went to West Virginia. Obviously, did very well in his first stint there and is back there. But a guy with national acclaim in a way with his football mind. But then Charles Kelly's a guy who we're going back to, or Jack State is going back to that. Guy with deep Alabama ties, a guy that knows the place. He was a former coach under Bill Burgess, who is a Hall of Fame coach at Jack State. Knows the area, knows the landscape very well. So it's almost a shift back, almost in as far as traditional sense of this Jack State quote unquote football coach. But I think that he's done a pretty good job in the sense of he's an excellent recruiter. I think that he's gotten some guys who maybe could have had other opportunities to get to Jack State. Cam Cook, it seemed like, was a very good prospect to get out of the transfer portal, and he's shown that. Gavin Wimsatt probably could have had other opportunities. Guys like Trevor Woods from Colorado, Traquan Fagans from UCF, and played at Alabama and USC as well. Guys like those who might have had other opportunities are now with Jack State. So it's certainly a different feel in Jacksonville. I mean, this guy is really well liked. He's very involved, just kind of off the field stuff. He's very involved in the community. People see him all the time. Just stuff like that Jack State really had back when Bill Clark and John Gross and those kinds of guys were there. And not that Rich Rod didn't do that, but it's just a different feeling when you have a guy who's had national relevance and been in the national championship competition, guys like that. So it's certainly a different feel, but I think it's a good one that Jack State's really enjoying right now.
Thomas Ashworth from AL.com joining us here on San Diego Sports Talk. All right, let's go. You mentioned a little bit earlier. Let's take a look at that QB room. And I was on the press conference with head coach Phil Longo just a few days ago. I feel like I was being a little bit too hyperbolic when I said that there's a little bit of a carousel going on at the quarterback room, but it just seems like that right now there's some questions still about the quarterback room. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that honestly, in my opinion, it's a little bit over dramatized. I think that Gavin Wimsatt obviously had a rough first half in the Southern Miss game, but I think that he's played well in the other games. I mean, I think that he's managed the games very well. I think that he's provided some plays with his feet. I think he's made some really good reads, and at the quarterback position, especially with a guy like Gavin Wimsatt, it's not about passing yards, things like that, or passing touchdowns. He's managed the game, in my opinion, very well in moments. And I think Southern Miss was just a really tough game for him and really tough start. And Caden Creel really provided a spark. He really did. I'm not diminishing him, obviously. Very good athlete. Obviously, a really good player that was in high school here in Alabama. He was at Fairhope High School and made a name for himself there. Went to Jack State and has been a guy who's been in that quarterback 3, quarterback 2 conversation ever since he got there, and now he's actually getting some playing time. There's just been loaded quarterback rooms. When Rich Rod was there, I think he had like 3 or 4 guys who could potentially start at quarterback. So you get buried in that room with a guy like Rich Rod, but excuse me, finally getting a chance under Coach Kelly, and he made the most of it against Southern Miss. I mean, he can make plays with his feet. He can make some throws. He had some turnovers against Southern Miss, but I do think that right now, I think that it's still Gavin Wimsatt. I think that I would be surprised if it wasn't him getting the first snaps against Sam Houston, but both guys are getting first team reps in practice right now. So I guess we'll see what happens. But as of right now, I do think that Gavin Wimsatt is still the starter. I don't think that it's just because he played in the second half and got the start that is now Caden Creel's job, anything like that. I do think that still Gavin's the starter. I think that he's managed the game well, but I think that he deserves certainly another chance.
Well, it does make it easier when you do have such a dynamic running back in Cam Cook. I mean, 111 carries, 614 yards rushing. That's 128.8 yards per game. Tell us what you know about good old Cam Cook. He seems like an absolute monster in that backfield.
He is. He's a really good player. I think he has this really rare mix of speed and power that, a lot of guys might not have at the group of five level. And, sometimes you might need two backs, but he can do the work of two backs in a way. He can score in the red zone. He can break off for long plays. But I think that Coach Kelly said this before, but he really does well even when the ball isn't in his hands. I mean, he's able to, help the receivers get some plays. He's able to be a factor on quarterback draws. He's able to be a factor in any really play that you put him in. So he's a really good player. I think when he got on campus that he impressed almost right away, and national organizations really took notice of that. No, he got a lot of watch list stuff, but when he got on campus, everybody was like, "Man, we got a guy right here." And he was a really touted prospect out of Texas when he was in high school. I think he was a four-star prospect and just part of a TCU team last year that just didn't really utilize the run game too much, but getting an opportunity to be kind of the bell cow at Jack State, and now he's making the most of it. But a really good player and a really big factor in the Sam Houston game for sure.
Any other skill players that we should keep an eye on this Jack State offense?
Running back Andrew Paul is should be back. He's had some injuries, so he hasn't been 100%. But he should be back. Wide receiver Michael Petway was the leading receiver on last year's team, and he's a guy that's been getting mixed in more. But in the receiver room, I mean, Brock Recksteiner is a guy who's familiar with the system, and him and Petway and guys like Pearson Baldwin. Those are guys that have been in the system for a long time and were recruited by, former coaches. So they certainly bring a lot of experience, but Caleb Coombs and DeAndre Johnson are other guys in that receiver room that can make some plays when needed. But Cam Cook is really looking like the best player on the team right now. He's answered the call, and last week they really bottled him up against Southern Miss. So we'll see if he can get at it again. But I think this will give him a good opportunity this week.
Let's switch sides of the ball real quick. Let's talk about that defense. What do you see out of that group?
Last week was certainly tough for that defense, but the defensive line, I think, is still kind of when you talk about strength and experience, I think the experience of the defensive line certainly helps guys, like Emmanuel Oyebadaho. I think it's, every time I say it differently, but a guy like that in the defensive line, Jawan Campbell, guys like that who have been in the system for a long time and kind of understand, what the position brings, but they've really made some plays. E-Man is what his name is. He has like a 1.5 sacks, but really came on the scene against UCF. He's played some really good football as of recent. But I mean, in the secondary, there's a lot of experience, and a guy like Trevor Woods who was kind of one of the only guys at Colorado that kind of was still on the team after Deion Sanders came and revamped that entire roster. He was one of the holdovers that Deion Sanders kept on that team, and Coach Kelly was his position coach there. They switched into linebacker. Just he redshirted after 4 games there, and is now at Jack State for his final season. But he's been a really good force, and I think he's been one of the highest graded safeties in at the group of 5 level so far. Another player that I think deserves some recognition, Max Sanders, is a guy who he was a linebacker and he's really stepped up. There have been some injuries at linebacker, and he's had to get into a starting role as a true freshman, and he's really made the most of it. He ranks like second or third on the team in tackles. He's had a couple of excellent games since he got in that starting position. So there's certainly some talent on this defense. It's just a matter of putting it together against a Sam Houston team that has a few things that could cause some problems on offense.
What could exactly cause those problems? And give me a few things on either side of the ball that could cause issues for the Gamecocks heading into Thursday night's matchup against Sam.
Obviously, I'm not a Sam Houston expert, so you could probably provide a little bit more information on specific players or stuff. But I think breaking big plays is going to be kind of the biggest thing for Jack State against the last couple of games. They've had some big plays, and those were kind of the costly things for Jack State. taking care of the ball, I think has been kind of one of their strengths as of at the first stretch of the season. So the Southern Miss game obviously was a little bit different. They had some turnovers, but taking care of the football is going to be the biggest thing. And third down, I think Jack State has shined the most on offense. I think that that's going to be a big thing for that offense. And like we said on defense, I think that if they can win the turnover battle, I think that'll obviously be in their favor. Reducing penalties is going to be a big thing. They did really well in avoiding penalties, and then Murray State obviously wasn't a game that they wanted as far as the mark of penalty flags that were thrown on the field for them. But if they can avoid those penalties and win the turnover battle, I think those are the two things that'll help them go their way, probably more often than not.
Sounds like that Sam Houston just needs a couple of big plays and stay more disciplined to Jack State. But Jack State seems like more of a. I mean, Jack State's like seems like a really good team that Kelly's put together for his first year, especially in this world of NIL and this world of transfer portal. How wild it can be. I am kind of curious though to see how both of the coaches for Kelly with Jack State and Longo for Sam Houston, how they do this next go around where they kind of have a more full off season, especially with it being a one transfer portal period cycle. Now, kind of building off of that a little bit, obviously both Sam Houston and Jack State have both came up at the same time. Kind of similar upbringings. Of course, Jack State had a much more successful first year in FBS than Sam Houston did. I mean, Sam Houston football in 2023 was cursed beyond belief with the amount of one possession games that they lost. And then, Jack State had the year they had last year, won the Conference USA Championship. Last year, Sam Houston gaining 10 wins, winning the New Orleans Bowl. And then both lost their head coaches on their side went, and there's some growth going around, but both athletic side of things. Just kind of how has Jack State fared in the challenge so far when it comes to transitioning the FBS? How do you, from your perspective?
I mean, obviously, I think that a guy like Rich Rod helps helps ease that transition when you're talking about football. Not they had an excellent year, probably the best college football story in my opinion. Right when they made that jump to FBS, everybody was watching and trying to see where they would fit in that. Bowl eligibility thing with how many teams were ineligible and things like that, and they were able to get a bowl bid, go to the New Orleans Bowl, win that, and probably one of the best bowl games of the year that year. An overtime win, won on a field goal by a guy who had he was a backup, and the guy starting above him hit the portal. So really good story there. And then obviously last year won the conference championship. Jack State. Had an excellent year for anybody's standards, and Rich Rod went to West Virginia, so tough there. But I think that just in general, I think that if you're talking about all of sports, I think that Jack State is doing exceptional. If you're talking about just moving up. Baseball was in the conference championship game this year. Softball was in the conference championship. Bowling is a perennial power. Won a national championship. Won the ITCA championship. A lot of really, really good success. Women's golf is doing well as well. Finished second in the conference. So I mean, you can look across the board for Jack State and just see that the move to Conference USA might be would probably be hindering any other program, but Jack State has some really good coaches in the building, and I think that that's a credit to athletic director Greg Size. I think is a credit to the coaches for kind of taking on that challenge. And it's not easy, obviously, to go to from the ASUN to Conference USA, where there's a lot of really close knit teams. As far as there's a lot of teams that are gonna have consistency. And I didn't even mention basketball, but basketball was made the NIT as well. So, and basketball was really good last year in Conference USA. So there's a lot to like, I think, about Jack State when you're talking about just as an overall program in Conference USA. But football, I really don't think it could have gone much better for the Gamecocks. Just purely transitioning.
Yeah, it's really good what Jack State's been able to do over there, and just kind of hope on our end that it's just kind of like a late blooming situation for Sam Houston. So we'll see what happens for sure. But Thomas, before I let you go, is there any final thoughts that you want to get out there before this Thursday night matchup between the Bearcats and the Gamecocks?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for Jack State, this is a must-win game. I think this is a good opportunity to, kind of see where they're at, especially after the stretch that they've had where there have been a lot of ups and downs. I do think that the Liberty game, on paper at the time, it looked like a huge win for Jack State, but Liberty looks really bad this year. So I mean, it's certainly a different win than it was a few weeks ago for Jack State. So it's a little bit different. I think this is a must-win game for Jack State. I think it provides a lot of opportunity, but the conference just it looks better than last year. Last year it was really bad. This year there's a few teams that look much improved. I think Delaware looks pretty good for a transitioning team. Kennesaw State looks pretty good. Western Kentucky looks like the front runner right now to win the conference. So there's some teams that could certainly make some noise, but I think this is a must-win game for Jack State. I think if they can get through this one, I think that that'll be certainly good for a really tough stretch going forward with even more must-win games on the schedule.
Yeah, it's gonna because after this y'all got Delaware at home on the 15th, and then y'all are off for another bye week, and then at the end of the month, October 29th, y'all go on a 2-game road stretch, Middle Tennessee, UTEP, then Kennesaw State, FIU, and then this could be interesting. This last game of the year could be interesting. Of course it depends on how the Gamecocks do for the rest of the season until that point. Western Kentucky at home to end the season. That could be quite an intriguing game, especially with how it ended last year, with Western Kentucky beating Jacksonville State to get into the Conference USA championship. Of course, though, we all know who won that. It was pretty easily, all said and done. Pretty much before halftime, it felt like at some points. But Thomas, thank you for joining me here on Sam Houston Sports Talk. Glad to have you, guys. His social media accounts are in the description below, and you can also. I'll leave a website link for al.com. Thomas, appreciate you hopping on, man. It's could be hopefully it's hopefully with how Sam Houston, even though they're 0-5, hopefully it's hopefully it's a good football game. No matter how it ends, hopefully we see a good football game in Shell Energy Stadium, Houston, Texas, 7 p.m. Central Time on CBS Sports Network.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
No problem. All right, thank you to Thomas Ashworth once again for joining me here on Sam Houston Sports Talk. And now it's time to get to the great part, folks. The fun part. We love this part, especially with how the season has gone. You ready, Luke? I know you are. I'm ready right now. Let's get to it. The keys and predictions. I'll tell you what.
Colin, you go first. You go first. We gotta change it. We gotta change it up.
I'm not ready to unleash and unload, Luke. I just can't go with the Sam Houston Bearcats. And the thing is like, now I'm back to my original voice. I'm not Skip Bayless. I'm going to be actually very serious. I was serious when I said that I can't pick this Sam Houston team right now against anybody unless they prove me wrong. And you know what? I do challenge Sam Houston to prove me wrong this week. I hope they do. I hope I absolutely eat crow this week. I just can't see it happening with how the offense has been. And the defense is the defense. We know what it is. But if they constantly get put in bad spots, they're on the field way too much. It's just tough, Luke. They have to start, and this comes to my keys. My main key really is that they have to start fast and early. They have to get off to a good start, because if they don't get off to a good start, it's not going to be easy for the rest of the way. And Jack State's going to capitalize. They're a better football team. They have a really good running back in Cam Cook. They also have a good quarterback. And it's all, and yes, I know that he got benched, but as Ashworth pointed out, he's still the guy. And it's just, they have to find a way to get off to a great start. But for now, I have to go with Jack State 27-7.
That's fair, Colin. I'm right there with you. I just don't think anything this team's put on the field has warranted me to pick them possibly ever again this season after they betrayed me. I was so high on him going up against the Aggies in Mexico State and did not get anything for it. No, I'm right there with you. I will say I'll credit Hunter Watson. He threw his first passing touchdown of the year in the last game, which was an accomplishment, but I'm gonna say 31-10.
Oof.
Jack State.
So you and I have the
I
right
think
idea. So you and
I
I,
just don't think this team will be able to stop Cam Cook. So I think that also opens up a little bit more the playbook for Jack State. I think they're using this game. This is, I think, a game that they're going to try to use to leapfrog into the Conference USA standings at the top of the leaderboard, top of our conference, and try to challenge that upper half where I thought kind of where we would be. That's kind of where Jack State is currently. So, Jack State by quite a bit.
yeah. So it seems like you and I have the right idea when it comes to the scoring margins. And by the way, folks, apologies. We kind of had some audio issues earlier, and so Luke's using his AirPods, so it's kind of causing a little bit of internet disruption, but it's not that bad as it used to be. So we're all good on that front. But yeah, you and I have the right idea on the margin of defeat. Jack State are 9-point dogs last time, or 9-point favorites rather. Last time I checked, it was 8.5 on CBS Sports. Last time I saw.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm looking right now. Actually, for some reason, it's down to 7.
Whoa. Really?
Currently, Jack State is 7-point favorites. So I guess a little bit of action went in on Sam Houston, but I just don't. It's hard for me. Sam Houston being just plus 242 on the money line straight up is, I mean, it's bonkers to me.
What exactly do these bookies know? What exactly do these odds makers rather know that because they keep on putting Sam Houston in a very good spot betting wise. Maybe it's just to trick the public a little bit. I mean, it is only one of few college football or one of two college football games that are going on that night. So maybe the bookmakers are trying to make some money. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to fool people into taking Sam Houston. It's just very odd.
well, that's kind of what I thought
last week
the
too.
New Mexico State was.
Yeah, exactly. When they were favored.
The line screamed Sam Houston, saying, "Why is this team favored?" All the sharps were kind of on Sam, and the sharps got stabbed pretty much in the back there by the books.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's just weird how it all works. But yeah, so you got 31-10 Sam Houston or Jack State, and I got 27-7 Jack State. So I think it's the first time we've it's the first time we've both picked against the Bearcats. Like we both picked like against the Bearcats on the same pod for for the longest time for the as long as we've done this pod. Because every time you picked Sam Houston or every time you picked the opposing team, I always went with the Bearcats. I literally went with the Bearcats all year last year, except even against UCF for some reason. Yeah, it's gonna be just watch. If this is the first time that this happens, then they're gonna go out and win. It's gonna be. I mean, I don't think they're gonna win unless they prove me wrong. Hopefully, but and he left, and he's now back. Luke, why'd you leave me, man? Now you're just a Discord symbol on the screen. Oh, man, I think he disconnected, guys. Oh no. Luke, you back? What happened, man? Why'd you leave?
Colin, I was hearing you talk, but you were just like everywhere. This rarely is it my internet that's kind of been in recent. It's been a little bit more of your internet kind of acting up, but tonight it has been
it's
the land down has been.
It's you this whole entire time.
It's Spectrum. Thank you, Spectrum.
But
Up
anyway,
here,
the people
that'd be calling my guy.
the people know what I'm trying to say though, Luke. It's just gonna be it's just funny that we both picked against Sam Houston for the first time. Like we both picked against Sam Houston in the predictions, and it's just gonna be funny that they for some reason go out and make it a game or even win or whatever. But hopefully
That will be accurate. This team will probably win by 2 scores and look absolutely phenomenal on one side of the ball, and we're gonna say, "Where has that been all year?" And we're gonna be right back on the hype train, and Longo will have the bus riding once again, but or I guess for the first time this year. But Colin, you just can't pick this team right now.
yeah.
You just can't.
Well,
I
let's see what
mean, the
happens.
100 and however many teams in the FBS, Colin, we've played like a bottom 10 team.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. There's still 7 games left, and it's just the path to a bowl is pretty tough right now, and it's not looking good. But one play at a time is what I'll give y'all advice
Bowl
for.
games. I'm just trying to win a game.
I'm just gonna give y'all advice and say just take it one play at a
Playoff.
time. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But anyway, guys, that does it for this preview pod. Don't forget there are also other Bearcat sports going on as volleyball is back in town to play against FIU on Friday and Saturday, and also soccer will be back in action on Saturday against that team out west in the UTEP Miners. So hopefully the soccer can get back off on the right foot after a heartbreaking, and I mean a heartbreaking loss against Western Kentucky, where they gave up a goal in literally the last seconds. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully it's a good week of Bearcat athletics, especially after last week was very, 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 very rough. For Luke Scott, I'm Colin Neal saying so long for now. Be sure you like and subscribe today. Follow us on all of our social media outlets and anything you do. Sharing this podcast with some fellow Bearcats. Some Bearcats may not even know we exist, and they're trying to look for a place that they can listen for all the Bearcat talk. Just leave them right here to Sam Sports Talk. Any way you support them is really appreciated. But guys, beat 'em up, Cats. You can listen to Sam Sports Talk. Your home for all the Bearcat talk.